welcome to another edition of the Pace Report. I'm Brian Pace, reporting live here, fine and rare, here in New York City. Blessing the band stage tonight is a dynamic vocalist and trumpeter who's built a very important following over the last 20 years by the name of Brian Newman. Now, that name sounds very familiar because Brian has been very busy as a leader and a soloist of his band. In fact, he has a brand new record, his third album, which is coming out, entitled Electric Lounge, as well as the song Roxanne, which is a cover of the Police's hit from the early 1980s, is getting lots of hits and positive response on iTunes as well as Apple Music. This gentleman has done some very important things behind the scenes. In fact, he's the band leader as well as co-produced songs for Lady Gaga, in which he and her have been very dear friends ever since he moved to this city almost 20 years ago. In addition to that, he backs and he leads her band for her residency in Las Vegas, as well as he has his own piano residency and jazz residency as well, a late night session. But he also has Brian Newman's Garage Tracks, which is a show that he hosts online through Instagram. I had a chance to sit down and break bread with Brian to talk about this brand new record, Electric Lounge, talk about his struggles and perils growing up in the city as a musician, as well as his relationship with Lady Gaga, as well as talk about some of his very important influences on vocals as well as trumpet. So sit back, relax, and enjoy highlights. And Mr. Brian Newman playing music from his upcoming record, Electric Lounge, here on the Pace Report, reporting live at Fine and Rare here in New York City. I guess this interview has been about maybe 3 years.
I know, man. I'm sorry. I know it's been a long time, Brian. I'm finally glad we got to get this together, man.
You know, this new record, Electric Lounge, this is diametrically different than your other two projects. This is an electric album, and you wanted to do something a little different as far as revisioning of how this music is presented.
Yeah, I think that just like, you know, the standards that we've been playing for years and years and still play all the time. It's like there's a standard of that I listen to, like Nirvana and Thin Lizzy and like these great rock bands and country artists and you know, just all stars of the music industry that's what I grew up listening to. So it's nice to be able to do something different, you know.
You know, one of the things, and I cover and watch a lot of and listen to a lot of music at home. You know, one of the things that I think that you and a handful of musicians in our age range, they're taking songs from our generation and revisioning it and playing it. And I think it's very important that we have to start doing that now.
Yeah, I mean, like you think about Charlie Parker and those guys writing those heads over those great 32-bar a.a.b.a. forms and how different they can make them and how harmonically different they can make them, and just there's stuff that you can do, you know what I mean, that with this new music, and even some of the stuff like the Nirvana we're talking about, we did Lounge Act, that's 30 years old. Like it's this music is older than we think, you know what I mean? It's the stuff that we grew up with. Yeah.
You just hit me.
Yeah, I know.
I was in high school when I bought Nirvana's record. Mm-hmm. And, you know, and it's funny you say that because fine music does not age. Mm-hmm. Hendrix never ages, just like Dinah Washington or, you know, Chet Baker, that it never ages. And I'm very interested to see and hear how you're thinking about the way the music is moving forward now.
Yeah, and like a lot of it just came from, like, you know, we've been at the Gramercy Park Hotel for 9 years, and we started with the organ trio on Tuesday nights, and then we grew to Tuesday and Thursday nights with the trio, and then, you know, my good friend Steve Cortica moved to town, and he started joining us on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then we had a bass player, our wonderful bass player Daniel Foose moved in, and we just started, you know, Steve really started experimenting with like pedals and like different kinds of sounds, and there was a lot of stuff in my mind that I really wanted to do, and we started to do some of that on the last record. But, you know, this one was really what I really wanted to make, what the boys really wanted to make, and like the songs that really resonated with us, and we got to make it the way that we wanted to make it, you know, and really this is my favorite record so far, and just like it was just all the boys are at the top of their game off the road, and, you know, just like that kind of 6 nights a week, 7 shows a week or whatever, back in and just to be able to have fun with it, you know.
You know, and you hit a soft spot or sore spot with me. I'm a big fan of Sting and the Police.
Oh, man.
And your single Roxanne, I'm like, wow.
There's a couple on there. We did a couple Sting songs. We did Murder by Numbers too.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3. You know, there was and to talk about newer music, it's like Frank Zappa was a big influence to me. And there's this one record that he did back in the day called Broadway the Hard Way, and it was a live show. And there was one part where Sting comes out and sings Murder by Numbers to Stolen Moments. Like they played the intro to Stolen Moments, they go into a minor blues, and Sting just kills it, and we really just stole it. You know, I was like, this is so good, we can't not do this. You know, we didn't do the Stolen Moments part, but we just did the tune, and, you know, just fun stuff, man. He writes great songs. There's so many good stuff that we haven't recorded from Sting that we do live, like Invisible Sun, and you know, just beautiful. He's just a great songwriter, you know.
When the world is running down,
yeah,
you make the best what's still around. That's relevant. Yeah. That's relevant in 2020.
And can we just talk about that? Today is a great day in America, in New York City, in the world. You know, so man, it's good. It's good stuff, baby. That's why if we're a little excited, you know, that's because today's the day. You know.
And I think too, you know, going back to piggybacking what you said, music brings out the love, the hate, and also releases the toxins of everybody's body. And I think that's why I told you earlier I wanted to come out here and show you and show the viewers in your element, because New York has been so locked down for the last 5 months, and it's like people are afraid to come out. Mm-hmm. And you're getting people, everybody here tonight, it's sold out. Yeah,
we got a good sold out as much as we can, you know what I mean? So it's good to be we've been doing it for about a month. You know, Fridays here, Saturdays at Spring Place. So this is Fine and Rare we're at, and it's great. It feels good to be back with my boys and just like, you know, out in New York City and not being, you know, being cautious, but trying not to let the fear overtake us. You know what I mean? It's like you have to do the right thing and wear your mask and do that stuff, but it's important to rebuild New York. It's not about the money. It's not about the 25% capacity. You know what I mean? It's like about the people in New York and, getting that back on track and being back where we, trying to get back to where we were.
When I first moved to New York here, and it was in 2008, I came at the time when the financial crisis came.
Yeah.
And, I remember seeing you at the Gramercy. I remember checking you out, and I'm like, you're doing some things that are kind of like diametrically opposed to what jazz clubs are doing here in the city. Mm-hmm. Why did you want to change that?
I mean, I just, I love all the jazz clubs in the city. I love hanging out there. I love going there and listening to the music. I never felt not a connection, but I just felt that, I didn't want to put it in a glass case. You know what I mean? Like, the music is entertainment. It's like the cats that I learned from, specific, one of my mentors originally when I was a young kid was John Brunius. And he was a trumpet player in the Preservation Hall Jazz Orchestra. And my father took me down to New Orleans one summer when I was like 13 or 14, and we met John, and he was so kind, and it's just like that mentorship and that like that. I've lost my train of thought, but
the camaraderie between you and the music.
Yeah, and the music and the culture. And one big thing about what he always said to me was just like, and when I would go play with him on gigs and he would let me sit in, and it's just like, it's about entertainment. He would talk about Louis Armstrong and like all these stories from New Orleans and all these great, people that he that he grew up around with stories about, even if he didn't know them, you know. And he passed away, God rest his soul, but he was just an influence in me in focusing on entertainment. You know what I mean? And without taking away from the art of the music, you know, making jazz and American music, you know, jazz to me, that word is cool, but I'd rather say American music, because it comes from here. That's what it is. There's no other place where this music was made, you know, and it's so important to respect that tradition while bringing it forward, you know, like we talked about Charlie Parker and Dizzy and Monk, and like taking those songs, those standards, and, you know, making it into what it was, and then, you know, we have to do the same thing, you know, take it to the next level, you know, and be entertaining, accessible without, yeah.
Anyway, and you're right, you nailed it, because I'm listening to your records. I mean, Showboat is totally different than Eyes on the City, because Eyes on the City was like the world's introduction to Brian Newman.
Oh man, well, thank you for saying that.
It was an introduction. It was like, okay, I'm here. I'm gonna play this. I'm gonna sing this.
Yeah.
Now, if you don't get this, okay, you know, there's the door.
Right. Without saying it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
You know, I think of guys like you, Chet Baker, Kenny Dorham, Louis Armstrong. There's this texture of how you play on the trumpet, but there's also another layer of how you sing. When did you start to mix both, or how did they come together?
That was Chet, man. When I was a kid, like, I worshiped him. I listened to his records religiously. I would drive around in the car when I got my license for hours at night, just like singing along with him. And I remember, you know, John Von Ohlen, the drummer in college, was just like, I remember when you used to play just like Chet Baker. I did. I just sounded like him. I played like him. And I guess that's what every jazz musician does, or musician does, is emulate their idols until they can develop their style of their own. You know what I mean? And that was what important for me. You know what I mean? The Chet vibes, and he was easy to transcribe. He was easy to mimic. You know what I mean? Like that, starting doing that stuff really helped out.
You know, the thing that Let's Get Lost was a great documentary. Bruce Weber. And the one thing that I really liked about the biopic that Ethan Hawke did, and it kind of came out, and it's in the music too, his music. Chet didn't take himself too serious.
Yeah, I think that's important. You know, at the end of the day, we're not curing cancer. We're not, you know what I mean? We are playing music. It's entertainment, and it's like you said, like I said, like it's got to be, make it accessible without changing the technique, without changing the content. You know what I mean? You can make it. You can bring the audience into it. It's not a big deal, man. We're just playing tunes. You know, I think a lot of that stems from the schooling, you know what I mean? Like from school. I know I went to a conservatory, we went to Cincinnati, and there was that vibe sometimes where it was like, you got to do it this way, you got to be this, and you know, if you don't do it that way, it's not going to happen for you. You know what I mean? And so many times I heard that I was just like, well, I don't care anymore. I got to do what I got to do and be myself, and that's important. You know, it's like, if you think about, like, I'm definitely not comparing myself to any of these people, but I keep mentioning like Monk and Dizzy and Charlie, like they did their own thing. When they came out doing that stuff, that was not like a hip thing, really, like, and then it turned into something, and it also goes to that, how they learned. You know what I mean? You think about, I'm spacing on the names, but you know, Dizzy teaching Miles, and just like, and just that whole lineage of what you don't get in school if you don't go hang out in the city that you're in the college that you're in, and play with the cats that were there before you, you know, and learn from them.
Quincy Jones told me something many, many years ago. He said, if you ever want to excel and achieve greatness, he said, when you go to any city, learn 5 words that everyone's using in that city, and eat and drink what they eat.
That's it, man. Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like I think that you summed it up. Quincy summed it up. That's really nothing more to say about that, you know?
And you did that. You did that by way of New Orleans. You did that by way of New York City. You did that by way of Lady Gaga. We're going to go into that in just a second. It's just that I think that everybody's life experiences when it comes to the arts is interacting, and you have to be ground on the floor with this culture.
Yeah, I think so too. You have to soak it up. You have to, it's like when I was in school, I went out to I went to the Blue Wisp Jazz Club in Cincinnati. Always went to hear the cats that played with, these guys were just legends in my mind and in the jazz world, and they really showed me the way, and they were cool about it, and they vibed too, but that was like the good kind of vibe where like, hey kid, what are you doing, youngster? You know what I mean? Like try this, it's cool, or it was a gentle guide towards the right way of doing things, tradition, respect. You know what I mean? Like that's what it takes,
Brian, did you ever interact with Joe Lovano and his dad when you were growing up?
I did. They were in Cleveland, and I remember seeing them a lot. I used to go see Jack Shantz play at the Bop Stop with his Nonette, I believe, Nonette or Octa, I forget. But it was amazing. Joe would play, but I was so young. When I was 18, I moved from Cleveland to Cincinnati, went to school, and then right after Cincinnati, I came here. So Cleveland, we did a lot of stuff with. I was in with Ernie Krivda and Steve Enos and the All Star Band. Dominic Farinacci was a good friend of mine, but we grew up together. Another cat that I just saw recently, we played a gig in Baltimore with Sean Jones, and he's just a beast of a beast, and I love that guy, just a cool cat. And I remember when me and Dominic he's maybe a couple, 2 or 3 years older than us, but we were, makes a difference when you're in high school, it's like, and he was just like this omniscient God, is that the right word? Yeah. Sean Joe just played his ass off then, you know what I mean? Like, it was just like, and
He's from Youngstown. I believe, Sean's from, I believe, Youngstown.
Yeah.
And it's funny? We're sitting here together.
Yeah.
Me, you, and Sean, we're all Geminis.
No shit.
Sean, I believe is a day or two before me, and also to tell you another famous Gemini is Christian McBride.
Oh man,
Christian and I were born
another beast.
We were born the same year. He was born a day before. So all Geminis, we all have the same. We all think alike.
Man, yeah, you just got to be yourself and get out there. I feel like that's like that. My wife says I do have a double personality, but it's like I think it's just with her. I don't know. Sometimes, sometimes.
That excites me. That feeling delights me. Oh no, it's just the nearness of you. And to be in the night.
You know, I gotta ask you about growing up in Cleveland. I'm from Indianapolis, and
great town.
you know, Cleveland has produced some great musicians. I believe Vanessa Rubin is also from Cleveland. Also, you know, that city. Me being growing up in the Midwest, I noticed that there's a harshness that you have to kind of learn during those winters to make you a little stronger.
Totally, and I think too, it's like the hard workers. You know, the people that come from those places are, you know, blue collar. I was raised like in a way that was, you know, it's like we were working, and if I wanted something, I had to work too. I couldn't just, you know, you had to work hard if you wanted something. There was no like, hey, here, this is your free bike. You know what I mean? Or like, this is, you know, it's like it's your. And that's the, like you said, in the Midwest, it's tough, and the winters are cold, and you're just like, it's brutal, but you got to trudge on and do what you're doing. And I think that speaks volumes for people from that, you know, and it gets us ready for New York City, you know?
You know, your last album, you Showboat, you did a song, a tribute to a guy that's a legend in my hometown, and a trumpeter that, when he came on the scene here in New York in the 60s, he changed the game also, Mr. Freddie Hubbard. What does he mean to you?
Man, Freddie is just a beast, man. He's like, there's some records, like, I keep saying beast, but there's other adjectives.
He is a beast. He's a beast.
There's other adjectives, but no, Freddie was just like, I mean, he is, but he's just incredible. The way that he can jump around on the horn, and, you know, like, and just his sound, like that, just like tenacious, tenacity, like, it's just like that. I can't even describe it. Freddie's one of my favorites. Freddie, Woody Shaw, and I love Booker Little. I wish I could play like those guys, because those guys are like, you know, it's like that level of technique mixed with just the feeling and that soulfulness and like just the heart. You know what I mean? Like that's just something that I'm always trying to achieve. You know, and get better at doing, playing with more of that. You know.
You know, Brian, you brought up, you know, 3 important trumpet players. In fact, it was like, when the 60s was ending, Woody Shaw came on the scene, and he, in the 70s, did what Freddie Hubbard did, and Lee Morgan did in the 60s.
Yeah, and I love those records. Like, there's that Rosewood record with Woody Shaw, like that like, I can't, I'm not going to sing it, but you guys know it. But it's like, and he was doing that cool, and that's what I feel like when me and Steve started playing, like that was our influences. It's like, how do we play? We can't just play Woody Shaw songs all night, and they're difficult. We want to connect with the audience in different ways. So we thought, how can we make these songs sound electric? You know, these newer songs sound in an electric way, and just like give them that vibrance that like these grooving albums that like Freddie made, and like, you know, that Woody made, and just like, and like you said, Lee, and, you know, just very cool sounds of different stuff. You know, the Weather Report, that like that whole 70s, late 60s, you know, rock vibes, the Brecker Brothers. For, you know, with Skunk Funk is on the new album. I can't wait for everybody to hear that. There's a bunch of fun stuff on that on this new album. It's the proudest one we've done so far. I can't wait.
You know, Brian, I got to ask you. You brought up the Brecker Brothers.
Yeah.
What was your first take when you first met Randy Brecker?
I never got to meet Randy Brecker.
What?
I never got to meet him. We were going to go see them play at, I think they were doing something at the Vanguard in like, I could be totally wrong, but it was during the last 6 months. They were supposed to be somewhere, and I was like, we're going to go see Randy. And I know another great, Chad Lefkowitz Brown was playing had him on his record, and I think they were doing a show. We were going to go see that. I don't know. When this is over, I'm going to go to every show. I'm going to go to all of your shows. I'm not going to say I'm going to go and not go. I'm going to go.
I am too. I'm definitely too. I'm with you.
I'm not going to flake out, you know.
When you're in my arms, oh, and I feel so close to you. All my wildest dreams, they need you. I need no supplies, oh, to enchant me. If you only friend me,
had some tremendous musical experiences within the last decade. Everybody doesn't know, but a lot of people do know about your relationship with Lady Gaga. And I want to say a couple of things. When I saw the movie A Star Is Born, I told everybody that this woman right here is the real deal. She's going to surpass Madonna. She's going to surpass. And I didn't know this until I did more research when the movie came out. The opening scene when she's singing her song, La Vie en Rose, which was Edith Piaf's her signature song. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that you co-produced that.
Yeah, that was an arrangement by Steve Kortika, that our sax player, a great, wonderful person, friend of mine. We've been playing together since 1999, and he did that arrangement for. She sang that on the road when we were with Tony Bennett on the Cheek to Cheek album. I mean, it wasn't on the album; it was something that we did on the concerts when we were touring, and it was just and I remember we recorded a bunch of songs for that, and that was the one that they ended up using, and it was just like it was so cool to be on that movie and just get that opportunity. We've been very lucky and blessed, you know what I mean? It's been a very great experience, and she's just a great human being and musician and artist and all those things.
I mean, when that movie came out, that was when it just.
Yeah, totally, man, totally, and it just said she's just always been that way, hardworking, and same as us, same as you and I. We want to do things, we want to do more, we want to be helpful to people, we want to be nice, we want to be, she's that kind of person, you know what I mean?
And Brian, I say this because she's entrusted you to be the music director and lead her band for her residency in Vegas.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. I'm doing a band leader, arranging. I put together the big band, and it's the quintet from New York: Daniel Fu, Steve Kortika, Alex Smith, and then Donald Barrett plays drums. He's a great drummer from L.A. Michael Bearden is the conductor, and me and Steve and Alex and Daniel arranged 90% of the music. We had some help from a couple guys, Danny Giannagucci and Charlie Rosen here in New York for a couple tunes we needed last minute writing but it's beautiful. It's some of the best musicians from LA and Las Vegas, 12 strings, 15 horns, and the quintet from New York, and it's been such a phenomenal experience, and just to be able to arrange for that, and then to be on stage and play that with that kind of band, that kind of caliber of band, and her. It's an amazing team, and I can't wait to get back to do it. Like, all the songs are very much in that vein of Quincy Jones, Count Basie Orchestra. Like, we didn't pull any punches when we arranged the music. We didn't want to, it's a mixture of jazz standards and some of her own songs. I did an arrangement of her for Paparazzi, and it was great. One of the last shows, me and Terrence Blanchard got to trade solos on it on stage, and it was just like amazing to hear him play on my arrangement, and just to be next to Terrence, because I just look up to him so much, and as a person, as a writer, and just getting to know him has been incredible, and just like that, and the whole experience that she's led me to be able to hang with cats like that, Tony Bennett, her, I'm not trying to name drop, I'm just trying to like.
No. This is part of the journey.
Yeah, that's never lost on me. For a blue collar kid from Cleveland, I'm not like. I'm never like, oh, whatever. I'm like, this is amazing. You know what I mean? Like, this is like what I joined. This is why I do what I do. This is why I work so hard and tried and never gave up. You know what I mean? And still will never give up.
I one more question I want to ask you about Stars Born. I've got to ask you, what was it like working with Willie Nelson's son? Because a lot of people don't. I have to give him credit for this. He was responsible for the music of that movie.
Man, he's an amazing cat. And honestly, we never even. This is a crazy story. We were playing a wedding in L.A. and it was the organ trio, and the bride was like, oh, my friend Lucas is going to play some guitar, and we were like, oh yeah, cool. Nobody told me who he was. And she wanted to hear "Make You Feel My Love," that Bob Dylan song. I did not know the lyrics at the time, and I was like, and it was all kind of last minute. And I asked him if he knew it. I said, "Hey, Lucas, man, so happy to have you. What do you want to do? You can do whatever you want, but would love to have you. You know this song?" And he just like started playing it, and then he did it, and it's just like, I didn't even recognize. He had glasses on, a suit, his hair was in a ponytail, but then like the next day, somebody's like, "You know who that was, right?" This was before Star Is Born, and it was just like, I was like, "Oh my, you're kidding me? That was." We would have done all our Willie Nelson tunes. Well, it probably was cooler that we didn't, but it was, yeah, he's incredible. He's incredible.
I was one of my many jobs in my career. I was a country western disc jockey when I was in school in Arkansas, and there were a couple of cats that friends turned me on to when I was living in Arkansas. It was Shooter Jennings,
Yes.
and it was Lucas Nelson, and I've watched both of them evolve over the last 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
And they're not anywhere near what their fathers were. They are their own beings.
Yeah, I think so too. And like it goes back to what we were saying about being yourself. No matter where you come from, what you're doing, if you be yourself and you make it accessible, you can do anything.
Brian Newman's Garage Track Show on Instagram.
Try to pass the time.
I watched these and I'm like, Jesus, man, these guys up here on IG clowning.
I just trying to have fun. It's like I started doing it with my buddy Tommy London. We did like a weekly show where we just talk, and not a show, we just get on Instagram Live, and since we couldn't hang out, we couldn't go sit at a bar and talk to each other, and and then I just started calling people that I knew and calling friends of mine that we've played together before. A lot of the special guests that we played with in Vegas, Robbie Krieger, all these great people, known or not, you know what I mean? It's like just getting into talking to these cats and seeing what their lives are about and how they grew up and what makes them do what they're doing, It's been really fun. It's been really fun. We got a lot of great guests the rest of the year. We're booked up through January, and then we'll see if we're back to work. We'll see. We'll maybe do it a little dip. I'd love to do something like this where we could actually sit and talk,
Actually, you should do it. I mean, this is the next phase. I think every musician should have an opportunity to break bread and pick their heads, because what the Pace Report has done over the last 12 years, musicians have used these videos to extract stuff that they've never been wanting to ask. Like I wanted to sit down and ask you about how Cleveland and the New York music scene, and you've answered everything prolifically. You came at a time when the music scene was changing again in New York.
2003, I moved here. Yeah, and it was just like literally, but I knew that I came here with, $500, a U-Haul, and a first and last month security deposit. You know what I mean? It was like, I got to get a job, like immediately. So I just walked around the streets in a suit in July, and just went into every restaurant. You're hiring. I finally got a waiter job and never had any experience, and just stuck it out. I worked for 70 years without playing music full time, So it's just like, listen, that's the story of many people, and many people struggle harder and don't, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's that New York shit. Can I say that? I'm sorry.
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
It's that New York shit, man. It's just like, you make it here, you make it anywhere. It's like that. It's so cliche, but it's so true. It's just like, that's the deal. You got to stick it out. Keep trying, be yourself. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet, and I'm not where I want to be, but I mean, that's not true. I am where I want to be, but I know we have more to go. That's what I meant to say. And that's it. I just feel great about what we're doing, and I can't, you know, it's exciting to play music, you know.
How has being a father and a husband changed you as a person and as a musician?
It keeps me staying out all hours. I like to party a little bit, you know. No, it's been wonderful. It's like, you know, Angie, my wife, Angie Pontani. She's in show. She's a you know, world famous burlesque dancer. Just grace and class and elegance and just you know, and such a great mother and just you know, without her and my daughter, these past 6 months has been, it would have been a lot tougher. You know, as tough as it is, tough as it was, it's without that family, that core, it's hard to stay sane. It's hard to stay not depressed. It's hard to stay like, for me, I'm just saying, you know. So they saved my ass a little bit, you know. And it's a beautiful thing, you know. It keeps me a little more honest. It keeps me, you know, you know, it's a wonderful thing having a family. I never thought I would have a family, but it's really been a wonderful thing.
When you call me down all by myself, and I need your caress, I think of the thought of holding you near makes my loneliness disappear. No, you're far away. I have only closed my eyes, and you are back to stay. Oh, I close my eyes, and the sadness you bring soon is gone, and it's hard to find to see. I love you so, and that for me is all I need to know. I will wait for you till the sun falls out from the sky. Oh, what else can I do? Oh, I will wait for you. Let's see how sweet my feet will come down.
Brian Newman, what does jazz music mean to you?
What does jazz music mean to me? Jazz music means to me, oh man, that's such a hard question. Jazz music to me is just the epitome of freedom. You know what I mean? It's like you have this song, you have this form, and you have these chord changes, but it doesn't really It matters, but you have a palette in front of you. You have all these songs. You have the American Songbook. You have music you can write. You have, it's just, and the improvisation. It's like, I remember when I was a kid and I didn't even know what improvisation was, but I was in concert band and I was improvising while the band was playing da 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 da, and I was playing some other shit. I was just playing, noodling around, and I kept getting in trouble for it. And one day, the Timothy Yole, man, the best director that I had, he scolded me again, and then he said, "You should take my jazz course in the summertime." And it was 6 weeks, and it was the first week he taught us the B flat blues scale, but he didn't tell us what it was. And then the next week we did the 4 chord, and the next week we did the 3 chord, and it was a 6 week. I mean, the 3 chord, the 5 chord, and you know, taught us the blues scale for all that. And then by the 4th week, we were all playing the 12-bar blues, ear training, and that just really, that made me realize that there was music off the page, that I could do what I wanted to do. And from then, I just wanted to play jazz because I knew that I didn't have to just play some notes that are, you know, the little dots on the page. I could play whatever I wanted based on a certain chord change, you know, or whatever. I still just play whatever I want. You know, I think that's important. You know, I think that's like, to me, that's what jazz is. Jazz is freedom. Jazz is expression. It's yeah.
What do you tell musicians now during this pandemic that we're experiencing, moving to the Big Apple like you did, you know, almost 20 years ago? What are some of the things that you, one, as a musician, but also as a person that has to kind of find their way in the sanity in the city?
Yeah, New York's a tough town, but like I never even had come here before I moved here, and I always knew I wanted to be here because of those stories of Miles and, you know, that autobiography I read when I was too young, and you know what I mean, and the right time, and just like just the sheer force of this city and the music that's here. You know, I would say to young musicians, and I do say to young musicians, you know, you got to come and you got to work. You got to work hard. You got to get a job. You got to stay here. You know, you got to come and you got to figure out a way to make money, to pay your rent, to survive, so you can try to do more gigs and do more things that make you happy, you know, and find your way. You know what I mean? But it just goes back to what we said before about, you know, being yourself and not changing. You know what I mean? It was when I first moved to town, I went to all the jam sessions. You know, you go to Fat Cats, Smalls, you go all these sessions, Cleo's, you know, with Smoke. And, you know, after a while, I was like, man, I gotta get some gigs. I have to get my own gigs. I'm not getting any gigs from this, you know, not in a bad way. I was learning a lot, but it was that time where I was like, and I did that in Cincinnati too. I always had a weekly gig somewhere. I always tried to find a place where, so every time I talk to somebody, you say, oh, hey, what's up? What are you doing? I was like, oh, every Friday I'm at Fine and Rare. Every Saturday I'm at Fine and Rare, or whatever. You can always say that so people can come out and you can build something. You're building and honestly, you know, and from your heart, you know, you want to share that with people. You want, you know, not for selfish reasons. It's like you want to share your music. You want to share the vibe. You want to share the goodness, you know. So I think I would say is that clear enough? That's not clear at all. Yeah, yeah, but just do it. I would say don't give up. You know, no matter what anybody says. You know, I had a band director tell me I was last chair in the 2nd jazz band in high school, and it was like 9th grade, and there was 2 bands because it's such a huge school. It's like 3,000 kids in this high school, and I was sitting last chair, so that's 8th trumpet. And one day I went to the band director and I said, excuse me, you know, I'm not going to say his name, but I was like. What do I have to do to get in the top jazz band? And he literally looked at me in the face and said, nothing, you'll never be a jazz musician. So, but that, I could have taken that either one or two ways. That's either I'd cry and go home, which I did do, but when I got done crying, I was like, you know, I need to transfer schools. I need to go to a place where it's going to be a little more, yeah, to what I wanted. And I knew I wasn't good enough, but I knew that at 13 or 14, I knew that I wanted to, and I knew that I was willing to put the work in to do what I wanted to do. So I would just say that. That's a never give up. And that's just one story of many times that, you know, teachers or people have said, you know, not going to work. It's not going to happen. And, you know, and that happens to everybody in their life at some point. Somebody says no, and you're like, that either lights a fire under your ass, or you just go home and cry. And that's not, I don't know, it's just not me, you know what I mean? The more somebody says you can't, the more I want to do it, and the more harder I want to go, you know what I mean? Which is good and bad. Depending on the situation.
That'll do it again for another edition of the Pace Report. Reporting live here at Fine and Rare here in New York City. I'd like to personally thank the talented Brian Newman for his time. Make sure you go out and support his brand new record, Electric Lounge, which is available on iTunes as well as Amazon.com. Also support his Instagram show, Brian Newman's Garage Tracks, which is on Instagram. For more information on his upcoming residencies in Las Vegas and here in New York City, please visit him online at briannewman.com. As always, please like, share, and subscribe to my videos here on YouTube and Vimeo, as well as visit my website, thepacereport.com, for my weekly column, as well as my past segments. Until next time, remember, if it's in the groove, it'll make you move. Till next time, peace.